Okay. World's fastest elevator goes 45 feet in 2.75. Everybody hold on, please. Oh, 2.75, that's 2 minutes per foot. I'm sorry. I get confused by that. Anyway, we are going down. It takes a little over 2 minutes. When I was running Oscar, I had an in-flight meal service for us on the way down. Dave doesn't do that, so I don't know why, but I don't want y'all to get bored, so I got something else I'm going to tell you. It's really cool. You're going to love it. Everybody's going to basically light up. It's called the safety briefing. Yeah, everybody lights out. Okay, safety briefing. A couple areas down here you're going to have to step up. One area in particular you're going to have to step up, duck your head, okay? If you run into it, you're going to run into a wall full of that concrete and that rebar I showed you upstairs. It doesn't move, folks. I've tested it for you and it works really, really well. Take my advice, okay? Also, when we get inside the capsule on the right-hand side of the floor as you're walking in, there are some rails that run the floor, and I'll explain what those did here in just a bit. But they're a tripping hazard. They're not fun. I've tested those too. They still work pretty good. So look around all you want, ask all the questions you want, take all the pictures you want. Just be aware where your head and your feet are going all the time, okay? How far down are we? 45 feet.
What year did you say they built this facility?
60. They started in 62 and finished in 64.
Whoa. Oh, yeah. Of course they got that down here.
All right. First thing I want to show you all is this little area right here. This little doorway.
Oh, that's what we were talking about.
That's one of them. You getting it? Is it taking it? Okay. Y'all come on out. I got to shut the gates. Good gates. Another group. Okay. First thing, greet the crew. That came down this little video door here. And basically, it'll be two purposes. When it was shut, it'll provide a shield against electromagnetic pulses or EMP after a nuclear explosion. Nobody knew exactly what would work and what wouldn't work according to the electricity flow, and they knew EMP would disrupt that flow. So this door, when it was shut, provided a shield on the inside so that the crews can continue to operate and have all their electrical equipment working. It also had a secondary function, just as important, little rubber seal along the edge. When the door was shut, it kept any contaminated air out here. For example, after a flash, you're going to allow radioactive debris in the air. So this door kept that radioactive dust out here and kept a good clean air inside for the crew. So when it was shut, it was self-contained cocoon and they were operating safe. Yes, sir?
Does the crew ever have to take that ladder?
No, that's, it was there if they needed it, but the elevator is pretty reliable. It's been
I like the elevator.
It's been doing about 20 years, so they never had a problem. So.
How much air did they have when, if?
I'll explain that too. They actually had, they could operate, they were scheduled to operate up to 45 days without any outside help. So. Okay, now I want to mention one other thing about this door. It only weighs 8 tons, but you see how nice and easy it is.
Now, is that door normally open or closed?
Normally it was closed. Okay, it was, if the alert rate increased, the alert increased, then they did shut it, make sure it was shut and locked. But it wasn't made basically for security. You'll see a security door here in this end. So, okay? Okay, let's go in here.
Watch your step.
Watch your step. And yes. This is called the tongue junction area. Divided downstairs on 2 areas. Here's the capsule. And we'll go in there in just a minute here. But everything from here over this way is support system. Think of this as a little underground city. Once they shut that door and cut themselves off from the outside world, they had everything down here necessary to keep operating up to 45 days, like I said before. Water tank 750 gallons of clean water inside at all times. If an attack occurred, they didn't want to bring contaminated water in here, so the valve would slam shut, stopping the flow from water outside, and they would switch over and grab the truck doing this. This was a very important piece of equipment down here, probably second most. It's a sump pump. Doesn't sound very glamorous, but it keeps the groundwater out of here. They had a couple of, when they were shutting this down, the other sites down, they would go out, a couple of them, and check them before they filled up the elevator shaft. They'd been vacant for about 6 months. They'd look down the elevator shaft, there's 6 feet of water down here already. So once they shut this all stuff down, Mother Nature starts reclaiming it again. Otherwise, you had the world's largest underground sewer. Okay, let's go this way. Okay, this was called the launch and control equipment building. This is where the rest of the life support systems were. For example, right behind you here, we have a diesel generator that provides electricity in case commercial power was knocked out. It would switch on, provide all the electricity down. Somebody asked about the air system. This is their air system. This was the exhaust portion of it. It sucked out all the old air. And this was the intake. This would bring in all the air from the top side. Now, after a nuclear explosion, again, they don't want the radioactive dust and particles getting down in here. So when the air is coming in, the first thing it does is go through this little gray box right behind us. And that was a filter system that would filter out any biological, chemical, or radioactive dust that was brought into the system. Then after it was filtered, it went to this big beige structure right behind us. It looks like a meat locker when you're walking by, in a way it kind of is, because it's a huge air conditioning system. They needed to keep the temperature about 50 degrees down here all the time because the computers that were built in the late 50s and 60s put out an awful lot of heat, and they had to keep it cool to keep them from burning up. So you have the air coming in, you got a filter, you got air conditioning in the center over there with that first door shut. Again, this was just like a self-contained cocoon down there, and they had everything necessary to keep them operating. Now, another neat thing about this room is everything down here is designed to shake. Okay, for example, the exhaust from the diesel has a spring with a rubber sleeve on it, so it can flex and crack it without, or flex and move without cracking, because a nuclear explosion would be shaking this place quite a bit. The lights, you look at those, they have springs on it. The floor that you're now standing on is suspended on shock absorbers, like this one here, there's one over here, there were 6 along each side, and this whole floor was suspended on these shock absorbers. So again, if an attack occurred, the stuff would just kind of ride out the storm. Okay, now, I know everybody's interested in doing this, so on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, move it, squeaking a little bit. There's about a 3.5 foot crawl space underneath of us, and then there were special bumpers on the side, swing side to side. So everything down here, like I said, it was thought up and built to take a licking and keep on too. Okay? Any questions about this area? Okay, let's, y'all have a minute or two to look around if you'd like to take pictures. When you're done, meet me over in front of the hospital ground. Don't go in. Okay?
Yeah, everything's suspended. That's pretty cool.
Everything's what?
Everything is suspended on springs. The floor, everything. We always had a no loan zone area, anytime you go anywhere near where there's controls for nuclear weapons or around nuclear weapons. So you couldn't go into the places by yourself. You always had to be accompanied by somebody. Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, a lot of these had escape hatches that were covered with tons of sand, and then you pull a string and all the sand will come down, and then you climb the sand to get the ladder to go out the tube.
Training building, the middle still active. Yeah. And I asked the gentleman a question, I can't answer that. Now maybe you can. Was the targeting information already preset in the missiles?
Yeah.
Or was that determined at the launch time?
It
was already predetermined.
It was already predetermined, but if the president directed to do something, they could change it. Basically, it was just longitude and latitude.
Yeah. Now,
they had to do it before they launched.
how close would it come to the actual target point?
Well, you heard the old saying, close
enough, you know,
horseshoes,
atomic bombs
and nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
They hit an island from 6,000 miles away.
They're fairly accurate for that era of technology. I mean, and every generation of weapons gets much more accurate. I mean, B-2 now almost dropped on a Coke can.
Does anyone want to take out the house or the garage?
Yeah. So they did. Okay. I mentioned the first blast door, and that was to protect the site against the effects of a nuclear explosion. This was for security. This kept the bad people out. This also weighs 8 tons, and it was always shut when the crews were on alert and locked. And the only way you could open this up was from the inside. So any bad people just happen to get on base, get through all the cops upstairs, get downstairs here, try to get in here. This is what they're going to have to go through to get in, and I don't think they're going to make it. Yes, sir.
Were some of them grouchy? Is that where that started?
They were grouchy, yeah, because this was the only facility of its kind on its base. Anytime any VIPs wanted to see what a Minuteman site looked, they came here because they could fly in, take a 3-minute drive, take the tour and be gone within an hour. The crews down here had to prepare. They would all have to be had to be dressed perfectly. They would have to have the capsule all clean and all their classified information put away. So the crews down here, they were always grouchy because they always got the tours. Nobody else did. So that's why they were grouchy. Okay? All right, we're going to go inside the capsule. Step up, bigger folks. Please remember to duck your head.
Like that.
Okay, please watch the rails on the floor here. Good.
Slide the chair back and forth.
Yeah, they would harness themselves in the chairs too.
Okay, please watch the rails on the floor here, folks. Okay, please watch the rails on the
Don't
floor.
touch anything.
Look at that.
You hear me, Malachi?
Smile, Oscar, and having your cookie. Okay, excuse me, I'm gonna sneak through here.
What type of, when the men were down here, how long were their shifts? And they-
24 hours. Thank God, toward the end of the life of the system, they had women down here too, so. Okay? There you go. Okay, everybody hear me back there? I'm gonna do a real quick spiel, point out some pieces of key equipment down here. Then I'll I'll show you how to, or tell you how they would have launched, I'll give you a real simplified version of how they would launch missiles. And then I'll shut up and let y'all look around a bit, okay? We had communications racks down here. These 3 down here were communications. They communicated in a different way. The farthest one would communicate through satellites orbiting overhead. The closest one to me it's called a digital information network. It's kind of a real primitive version of email. They could send and receive text messages from higher headquarters. And the middle one was my favorite. It's called SLIFCA, Survivable Low Frequency Communication System. Its radio waves, instead of going through the atmosphere, actually traveled through the earth. very slow but very reliable, because anything like lightning strikes or nuclear flashes had no effect on it. So it was always basically the backup of the backup. And the Navy has a version of it called L, extremely low frequency, that they use to communicate with their submarines out at sea. So, Deputy Commander desk was here. There were actually 2 people down here at all times, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Deputy Commander sat here. His or her major function in life was to monitor all the communications and to put in the correct launch codes, and I'll describe that here in just a minute. But the computer system, this is really cool. Everybody likes these. This was built back in the late 50s, early 60s, and it would monitor, it would talk to the missiles. It would send a signal every few seconds saying, "Hey missile, you okay out there?" The missile say, "I'm fine," or "I'm broke," or "Mike Wallace is trying to get in on top of me again. So please send somebody out." But every few seconds it would talk to one of the missiles and check them out. Now, this is the hard drive for the system. Those of you that are tech savvy, they tell me that this whole computer system, by today's standards, has the power of a handheld calculator. So it shows you how far we have come in just a little over 50 years here. So, okay, now when you all look around, look up in the corner here, and you'll see a light shining on an orange hatch. This was the alternate escape route. Say these folks are down here, nuclear wars going on. They in turn have launched all their missiles, and they are allowed to go up and join humanity again. But when they get ready to leave, they find the elevator shafts have been destroyed, or one of the blast doors is jammed shut from all the shaking. This was Plan B. They had a series of steps along the outside of the capsule. They would walk all the way around to the back, and on the outside of the cabin back there was a ladder, and they'd climb up that ladder and they would open that hatch. Behind that hatch was a steel tube about 3 foot around, completely filled up with sand, and it went up at about a 45-degree angle, and went up to within 3 to 5 feet of the surface of the earth. And they had some shovels out there. They would open that hatch up, let the sand come pouring out, and stick a shovel up in there and try to dig their way out.
Well, isn't that what happened to the guys down in Damascus? When they got caught downstairs, according to the documentary, a couple of them tried to get out through the escape hatch.
Maybe, yeah. I'm not familiar with Damascus, but yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. That was also a Titan unit, so a little bit different than Minuteman, but some. Oh, Dave shut off all the lights over there. Okay. Okay, this was the commander's console here, and first of all, before I go any farther, one person was always awake down here at all times. One of them could sleep. Where would they sleep? Well, they each had a bed right here where y'all are standing there, and you see the brown curtain that would pull around. That would be their bedroom. We had to pull the bed out because of the tours coming through, but there was a bed that sat there. One of them could sleep. One of them go over there and pull the curtain around, go to sleep. The other one had to stay awake and watch this panel board over here. And let me just flick the light on it. Dave doesn't like it on, I guess, all the time, but I'll show you real quick. If I remember, I'll shut it off. But if everything's green, clean and green, the missiles are doing all right, everything's fine, you get a green light. There's a fault light, there's a problem with the missile, they would call maintenance. And again, if Mike Wallace was trying to get in them, you got a security violation. So somebody was always awake, making sure all the missiles were clean and green, and then if something showed up on there other than clean and green, they would notify the proper authorities to have it gone fixed, okay? Let me shut that off again because I'll forget it and you'll get mad at me. Okay, real simple version of how they would launch missiles. They're sitting down here, a message would come down saying, "Get ready, we're getting ready to launch missiles." So the first thing they do is get up, they come over here, and there's a little wrench, they call it a safe on the floor. When the crews came out, they each had they brought all the contents that were inside there. They each had their own personal lock, so both of them had to agree to want that message was real and authentic to open up the safe. So once they agreed, they opened it up, and inside there were the launch keys, and I'll explain that a little bit more, but here's one. There's one over here just to the right of the console. And there was also a series of, there was a set of verification codes, and they were encased in a little plastic wafer, and they actually called them cookies. And they would get, and I'll explain what those did here in just a second, but they would get the verification code wafers and the launch keys and go back and sit in their respective chairs. Okay, they had to strap in at this point. even though this cabin that you're in right now is suspended on shock absorbers, they still estimated if one got close enough from a Russian attack, this place would do a whole lot of shaking, and they didn't want people hitting their heads on this stuff. So they would strap in their chairs, and they would wait for the next message. When the next message came down, the deputy still strapped in, couldn't get out, so we're just going to show you this real quick. They would slide all the way down, and I'm not going to go down that far, but they would slide all the way down, get the copy of the message, slide all the way back down here, give one to the commander, and slide all the way back down. On that paper were two sets of codes. One was called a verification code. It had to match up with what they pulled out of the safe there. They would snap the cookie wafer, open it, compare the codes. If those codes matched, they knew that this was an authentic order from the president directing them to launch nuclear missiles. Second set of codes were the launch codes. They would go inside here and they would turn the switch. And the missile had that code, the president had that code, but the people down here did not have that code. So once they got it, put it in, and the missile agreed with it, it was ready to be launched. They would insert their keys, the commander would shout, "I'm a mark, 3, 2, 1, and turn the keys." But nothing happened. Armageddon didn't happen quite yet. Do you remember the cable system I told you upstairs where they were all interconnected within each squadron? Well, you have to have two separate signals from two different sources to launch any missiles. So, one Oscar's sister flight, we'll say Foxtrot crew, they get a message, they verify it, they put codes in, they turn their keys, they provided a second signal. We also had, as another backup, basically a flying one of these called Looking Glass. Some of y'all may have heard of it in your history books. Looking Glass was always up in the air somewhere over the United States. They could fly over the Whiteman missile field, they could get a message, they could verify it, they could put their codes in, they could insert their keys and do the key turn down there as well, and providing that second signal. But without the second signal, the missile's not going to go anywhere. So one crew by itself, even if they got lucky and tried to do an unauthorized launch, they still couldn't launch because you had to have a second key turn to go through and launch the missile. But if everything worked right and you got the correct codes, that silo door would slide off, missile motors would ignite, and it would go off towards Russia, wherever it needed to go.
So even though, all right, so each one of these controlled 10 missiles.
Yeah.
Even though they launched their 10 missiles, they still had to stay here because they might have to give.
You might have to launch another missiles in the squadron in case one of their command centers. The magic number, for whatever reason, I'm not sure, but seemed to be 45 days. That's what they designed. Now, at the end of the 45 days, and if everything was done, they could try to get out one way or the other.
Where did they keep food and all of that?
Normally, they had, since they were here on base, the dining hall brought it over, okay? Now, the other sites are out in the middle of nowhere. They had a full kitchen upstairs and a cook assigned, okay? But since this one is close to humanity and close to the food, the dining hall would bring it down. Now, in lockdown operations, if the war is imminent and nobody's coming out bringing food, they had, I don't know if you noticed, a box of MREs out there, meals refused by each, no, meals ready to eat. That's right. And they had up to 45 days worth of food out there. So. Okay? Okay, y'all feel free to look around and take a picture if you like. Yes, sir.
What kind of meals did they have in that MRE?
Oh, a little bit of everything. Different stuff. I'm not sure. Pork and beans and.
It all pretty much tastes like cardboard.
Yeah.
What's
Actually,
basket?
sometimes most of the time it was better than what they served on the mess.
Basket was the only thing.
The sea rations are better than the stuff that I saw brought.
MREs never agreed with me much. But,
No.
So, okay, I'll stand back here. If y'all have any questions, please feel free to ask. Otherwise,
Can we sit in the chair?
no, we can't do that anymore. I used to let people do that and have their picture taken, turning the key with a real evil look on their face. But the Air Force Museum started seeing all these Facebook postings of the pictures, and they said, don't do that. Sorry, so I've even got one of me doing that, but on my retirement day, we don't like that anymore.
Well, there's a picture of it.
sure.
There's the toilet.
Just watch your head in the knee. Yep, there's the toilet. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's all commo right there, it looks like.
Well,
That's all commo, or this is the board for the status.
What are you doing, child?
No, I mean, that's a commo radio right there. There's these selector switches.
Can I move now? Where's the...
1.1 megatons, so it's pretty good size. But it's roughly, I think, 5 times the size of an air ship.
What's that?
That is part of the air system that came in and went out.
Do you think you...
Also, where's the telephone you're talking about?
Oh, it's right in there. You see the dial on the commander's desk? Or deputy's desk?
Get the antibody around.
Right there. I
Oh,
have a lot
that.
of kids coming in and ask what that is.
Oh, I know how to work those.
Huh?
I know how to work those.
There you go.
My teacher brought one in, and then the first question I did ask was, what was that? Then I figured out how to work it. Then I found one in my basement.
Yeah, it makes you feel old. What is that? Oh.
I know how to use it.
Mostly commo
Yeah.
here too. This
That's
is
better
a
than what
whole
most
lot
kids
different
do.
from what we have.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't think it's
Except
down
all our,
like down
all
here.
our boxes,
Someone
instead
takes
of
it
being in
down.
racks like this,
No one's
all
going
these
to be down here
boxes
for a while.
were fit into
So
a
when did
socket
when
on
did
the
they
down on
close or
the-
retire this facility?
This facility shut down in, say,
Well, we were basically
in 1990.
like a rack that had these frames on it. And these
Are these the steps you're talking about
The
right
wing
here?
itself,
Put into
they
more
finished all the
effort.
inactivation requirements and shut down
Westinghouse. I mean,
on July
everybody,
31st,
I know.
1995. So
everybody was
And
involved.
everybody made
Now,
a
the
lot
map
of
and everything
freaking
we were
money off
talking
of it
about
too.
a while ago, they built in 2 years, 2 months.
Well,
yeah, 2
The
weeks.
So about
generator
how
I
many
saw was an Alice
roughly
Chalmers.
altogether?
150.
150. And those are all here in central Missouri.
Yeah, all here in central Missouri, and at the height of the Cold War, there were 1,000 Minutemans on alert throughout the nation. And then we also had 52 Titan IIs at part of the time with the Minuteman. So